Hello everyone, and thank you for joining this special webinar titled Women in STEM Igniting Passion, Inspiring Leadership in conjunction with International Women's Day celebration this year. Before we start, please allow me to guide you through some housekeeping rules. First off, please turn off your camera and mics. Second, type in your questions in the chat box. And please identify if your questions is for all the panelists or a specific speaker. But before that, may I ask Irfan to put up the slide for housekeeping rules? Irfan? So I may go through them. Thank you so much. As I was saying, yes, as you can see in the slide, these are some of the housekeeping rules for your information. While we wait for the rest of our audiences to join us, please do note that make sure your camera and mics are switched off. I know some of you probably are not so familiar with Microsoft Teams, but there is a chat box where you can type in your questions in the chat box. However, today, as we have more than one, or we have actually 4 speakers, please identify if your questions is for all the panelists or for a specific speaker. And also, just like Zoom, there's a raise hand function at the bottom. If you notice, please use the raise hand function for your questions during the Q&A. And also just to inform you that by attending this webinar session, you've acknowledged that your image and comments may be recorded and rebroadcasted. So again, welcome to this webinar where today we celebrate women in STEM. And my name is Tan Sulin. I'm the co-founder of Science Media Center Malaysia and your moderator for today. And this webinar is jointly organized by the British Council, Science Media Center Malaysia, and the Petri to feature female icons and role models in STEM to highlight their unique experiences and opportunities from STEM education and careers. Without further ado, let me introduce our really all-star panel speakers for today. We have Professor Kim Dale, who's an internationally renowned scientist from the University of Dundee, UK. She's currently the Associate Dean International for the School of Life Sciences and Professor of Molecular Developmental Biology. And we also have Dr. Chai Lei Ching, who is a microbiologist from University of Malaya. She's the chairperson for the Young Scientists Network, Academy of Sciences Malaysia, and the recipient of the 2018 L'Oreal UNESCO Women in Science Award. We also have Wei Vern Horn here, Vern, whose background is in engineering, and currently she's an analyst for gas and new energy in Petronas, and she's also a fellow Chevening alumni. Last but not least, Dr. Nur Fadlina Mohammad Sharif. She's a data scientist and Deputy Director of Innovation in Teaching and Learning at the Center of Academic Development in University Putra Malaysia, my alma mater. She did a PhD at the University of Bristol. So we also chat with her a little bit about her experience in the UK. And do note that there will be a question and answer session at the end, as well as a short presentation on women in STEM scholarship by Prabha Sundram, Head Education Malaysia, British Council. So please stick around for that. And before we begin, just as an appetizer, I would like to go one round and ask our speakers today to briefly share their thoughts. Why is STEM so important? Or more specifically, why are women and girls in STEM important? Prof. Kim, you want to start first?
Thank you so much, Celine, and hello everybody. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here today. So in response to the question, why is STEM important? Well, quite simply because our world depends on it. The economy, the sustainability of our planet, our health and well-being, all of that is backed up by science, technology, engineering and maths. STEM never sleeps and it will never reach a point that it's not important, and it's constantly evolving. Why is it so important for women and girls to enter the world of STEM? Well, only 30% of worldwide researchers are female, less than 30% of high school students studying STEM are female. And so it's our job as women in STEM to be role models and help change this, because quite simply, we need women in STEM in science with new ideas, challenging the way things are done and coming up with new solutions through their own experiences, creating solutions to problems that others might not have considered. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof. Kim. Very well said. And perhaps when I want to hear from Dr. Chai, your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sulin, for the very kind introduction. And also, thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure, and I'm very happy to see that, there are so many participants over here joining this webinar. If we were to talk about, why is STEM important, as Kim has already mentioned, our daily life, you can run away from STEM, from your the laptop that you are looking at right now, the mobile that you are using every day, even the hair dryer, the rice cooker. From the morning that you open your eye, it's all about science and technology. You can't run away from it. So STEM is the hope, for all the diseases that, that have no cure today. So you can only depend on STEM, to come up with new vaccines, new drugs, new treatment mechanisms, a lot more. So it definitely, STEM gives us a lot of, it is our life, it gives us a lot of, comfort, in our life. So that's why, STEM is so important. I think, when we talk about why we need more girls and women in science or in STEM, is that I generally think that both genders, men and women, are important, in science. So you find talents, in both genders. So it's definitely not defined by gender itself, in science. So to me, as Kim has mentioned, there's only around 30%, in certain country, probably slightly higher, certain country even, lower than that. I think that we are missing out a lot of talent in this particular gender, which is female. So you can imagine that our human population, there are 50% are actually female. And if you are sidelining female, so you are definitely going to slow down our STEM development and advancement.
All right, thank you so much for your thoughts. And Dr. Nur Fadlina, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yes. Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for the kind introduction as well, as said by Dr. Chai just now. Regarding why STEM is important and what more the role that women play, let me start by asking you, how many apps and software do you think you use daily? 3, 5, 7, 10? And out of those, do you ever wish that the apps is better for your needs? And you decide all the time which apps you want to do and which function you want to see today, and even what keywords you want to search. And when the things are being written to you, you always wish that it can be better, and if only it is personalized to you. Having this personalized quotient in mind, thinking that if there is something and it can be tailored to you, requires both gender to play the same role. Imagine even as simple as looking at an interface that a woman created by men. Sometimes there is some signature or stylometry on it. So for us to have better lifestyle and better apps, better technologies, better devices, hardware around us, we need to have both genders. Don't let there is bias in any of the tech, because at the end it's for us.
Right. I like it that we have to have the women's touch, right? So, and also Vern, lastly, yes, please share with us what do you think STEM is so important, more specifically women and girls in STEM.
Hi, Sulian. Thanks for having me. Everybody shared some really, really solid points. And I think we can agree that in the panel today, there are people of very different backgrounds and very different professions. And I think the beauty of STEM is that regardless of whichever route you take eventually, it all begins in understanding how things work fundamentally, right? You have to break things down to the core to understand how they work so you can apply some logic to create new solutions to make things better. So for me, I think STEM allows someone to think and see problems from different angles. And it just doesn't have to be, about work at all, and why is it more important that more women join STEM? I think different genders notice different issues. Let's put it that, right? And so I think the more people, the more point of views that we can get to see how we can improve how things work. I think, come on, join the bandwagon, right? Let's solve some problems. So, and also, men, don't hate me for this, but women are commonly known to be better multitaskers. So I think if you have STEM in your arsenal, it takes your capability up a notch because by knowing how things work at its most basic level, you can see the root cause of some issues really quicker. And you can apply your superpowers and multitasking to, do more.
Yes, and we will dive into the question of multitasking as a woman with our panel speakers later. And that's some of the kind of top level thoughts among our speakers before we proceed with our questions. And I'm sure you will be hearing lots of stories from these amazing women about their experiences and their challenges as well in the field of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, also known as STEM. So first up, I love asking this question, especially to scientists. Maybe I would like to pose this question to Prof. Kim first. How do you explain what you do to people at parties? And of course, what led you to this career path?
That's a great question. Thank you, Celine. So how do I explain what I do at parties? Well, so my lab, my research lab, looks at how the body plan is laid down. So how is it that your head is in one end and, the tail of an animal is at the other end? And so we are looking at the molecular pathways, the signals that cells use to talk to one another, to make cells different from one another, in order that we build 200 different cell types from one single fertilized egg. But the fascinating piece that I'm interested in is understanding how those cells then make tissues and organs, not only at the right place, but at the right time. So that is a miracle. And I always end up saying, I'm a very good developmental biologist because I have 2 children of my own. So that's what I end up saying. And what was the other part? What got me into it?
What led you to this career path?
So the first time I really thought about following this career was at university, where I had a mentor for my 4th year honours project. And he uses an animal model to understand body plan formation. And that animal model is a little fruit fly. And it's very hard to think how a fruit fly can help us understand about human development, but it's because there's so much conservation, so many things are the same in terms of the genes that are used to build organs. And he allowed me to do a project where we could look and label which cells were expressing a specific gene. And that was it. I was hooked. I was like, that is incredible. And he said, this could be your first step on that path of discovery science. So it was being able to see something down a scope for the first time that nobody else had seen. And I thought, that's it. That's magic. Thank you.
What's your moment for you? And yes, maybe for Dr. Nur Fadila, was there like a moment that you felt like, wow, this is the field that I'm going to, this will be my career path that I will, take on and excel in?
To me, it was more to an endless inquisitive mind. I might come to the point of nuisance to some other people, trying to inquire and trying to ask so many things. So it's more of trying to be explorative and trying to find answers. And based on this, and also many movies that I watch, well, it's normal, right? We watch all the sci-fi tech movies with all the text, with all the cool looking visuals, and ever evolving gadgets, even since the young and an early age. So these are all the things that make me think maybe this would not bore me, even though sometimes I feel it's so challenging, but at the same time, when I feel like I can learn and I can contribute, so just stay on it.
Okay, yeah. Is there a particular movie that sparked your interest? Do you remember?
I think there is this Doraemon. Now, if you think Doraemon was quite the earliest sci-fi
Right.
cartoon, that I think you just imagine the when you open the door and you can go anywhere. That teleport door is still not available right now, but the post box where we put the email, the mail inside, it can go directly and it can reach anywhere. That was tech and what we feel and we enjoy so much today, and even without the WhatsApp. Just imagine what's wrong with my life.
Yeah, and it's just the sheer imagination, right? That kind of like what could have been, what could have been done, and stuff like that. And maybe for Vern, what kind of sparked your interest to this field that you are currently in?
Oh, I would say it was a bit of a long journey to get to there. I remember speaking to one of my bosses, and I was kind of asking, what should I do? And how do you get to where you are today? How do you decide what you want to do? And he told me that um, I got to where I am by knowing what I didn't want to do. Like sometimes you gotta slash stuff that you don't want to do to get to where you think that you actually want to do. So I think growing up, I was one of those kids who loved to tear things apart to find out how they work, but I don't necessarily know how to put them back to my parents' chagrin. But solving problems was something that I loved. I still love. And I think I just, got to engineering school, because I did fairly well in school and I got a scholarship. But I think just like Dr. Fadila, it was also watching shows, and one of it was actually a documentary. I clearly remember that one of my mentors dragged me to USM at that time, and we watched this free documentary. It's called The Age of Stupid, and it's actually one of the very first of its kind, talking about climate change, talking about pollution, and it really made us look really stupid. And the thing that struck my mind was, oh no, we're in trouble. And I like to be a part of this, whatever solution there is to it. So I decided then and then that if I was going to pursue a path in engineering, I was going to do something around sustainable energy. Regardless of what my role could be, I want to contribute to a part of it. And I think a lot of my career decisions have been made around that, from my research days to my engineering days to where I am as an analyst today. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Yes, and also let's hear, by all three, I already so inspired, but let's hear from Dr. Chai as well. And I believe she also has a very interesting story, what led her to her career path today. Dr. Chai?
Yeah, so it's really very funny listen to everyone talking about how they become a scientist, because I remember when I first got the laureate award, the media actually asked me, I mean, what gets you to be who you are today? I need to think for quite a long time. Yeah, why? Because I actually never set my path in such a way or design my path in such a way that I want to be a scientist one day. So it just happened in such a way that perhaps it's because I've always been very curious. So I ask a lot of questions. I'm the type of kid that mother hate, why this, why that, why, can I sleep on the cloud? Why I can't fly like a Superman? And I have a lot of why. And when I was small, so I love to draw. So I can spend hours, sitting at the balcony and draw the trees that I see, draw the cloud that I see, draw everything, and draw things in my mind, my imagination. So I fantasize a lot. So I thought that I'll become an artist because, like, that's what I love to do. Like, I draw what I think, what's happening in my brain. So until one day that, like, my father actually get diagnosed with kidney disease, that totally changed my life. From that time onwards, I start to learn. I was 5 years old. So I know there's this thing called disease and it would kill. So I start to follow my dad, like, to go to hospital. So then, as a kid, the medical personnel, they'll be more kind to kids. They will tell story to kids and things like that. So I get inspired that I probably, like, want to go into science. Like, I want to be a medical doctor. I want to look for a way, like, to cure the disease, to understand disease, what have caused disease, and so on and so forth. And over the time, so I find that I actually are too emotional to be a medical doctor. I cry a lot, like, in hospital. So I feel too much, like, that emotional part that I wouldn't be a good medical doctor. So then I find that actually what I like more is to find a way, a cure to treat the disease and to really understand what has caused this disease. So that time I start to learn that I think in Form 3, that time I was 17. So I start to know that there's this thing called biotechnology. And after watching Jurassic Park, like, there's this DNA, and you could actually look into all these genetic materials. And you talk a lot about, like, movie also, that I love this movie called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I do not know whether if any of you watched this before, so perhaps you are too young to know about this movie. So it triggered me, like, I keep thinking, what are these little small things that you can't see with your eye, but could impact your life, could cause disease? And what does it feel like to be a microbes, to be a bacteria when you enter a human gut, like, when you enter the kidney of a man? So I mean, in that time, like, I know that I want to know more. I want to spend my time to research about it and to find an answer, because there's no answer. The questions that I asked my dad and mom, there's no answer. They say, probably you need to look for it yourself. So that's why eventually I choose, like, to go into biotechnology and into microbiology. So that's how it happened, miraculously, yeah.
Wow, that's just amazing. And I think there's, like, kind of like common themes among all our speakers. What kind of sparked their interest in STEM is through movies, is through, just the sheer nature of being very curious, and the curiosity, and just also, like, the yearning of wanting to do something, right, for the greater good and the greater for mankind. I think that is just so amazing. And I guess since we're also talking about the STEM scholarship that the British Council is also promoting, I also want to get, kind of the background. I'm sure, well, 3 out of 4 speakers here have their PhDs, and I know Vern finished a master's as well. So maybe, how do you think, for example, maybe Prof. Shai can answer this and just continue in terms of how do you see it, like, how does a postgraduate degree kind of like adds value to, like, your STEM career, like you said right now that you've done, in terms of microbiology, finding a solution and finding cure and stuff like that. Like, does a postgraduate degree adds the value to that?
Yeah, definitely. So I always thought that, like, by going into my university level, like, a bachelor degree, that I would be able to answer the questions. I would be able to find a cure. But at the end of the day, like, when I graduate, I know that the skills that I've learned is actually not enough. Whatever I learned, like, at the bachelor level, it's merely just opening the door. So it provides you with fundamentals, like, knowledge and basic, what you need to do so that you can bring it one step further. And this postgraduate training or study provide you with a different skill set that you need to know, so that you could solve questions that you could answer, find an answer for your questions. So that's like, you know, how to do a research. When you have a questions, how do you approach it? How do you design your work in systematic and in a scientific manner so that you could actually generate answers to the research questions that you have asked. So that's what postgraduate study has offered you. And by having, you won't be able to learn this, like, you know, from your daily job or work, because, like, you know, you are not doing that full time. So you need to have a full-time environment to actually learn how to do this. So it will probably take 3 to 4 years or 5 years to actually gain all the skill sets that's needed to answer all those research questions that you have.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And maybe for Prof. Kim, as someone who I guess most girls look up to as a renowned, internationally renowned scientist, how does your postgraduate degree kind of like put you on where you are today and kind of give you an extra boost of value to your career?
Thanks, Celine. And there's such exciting answers here. I'm really enjoying this session myself. So thank you, everybody, for these amazing answers. So I guess following on what we were hearing from Dr. Chai just there, the difference of what happens from undergraduate to postgraduate is that undergraduate, you're given the tools of, you know, how to do an experiment, how to ask a question, a research question. But in your postgraduate, that's the first time that you really get to ask your own question and you design your experiments to address that. And of course, initially that's with your PhD supervisor or postdocs, but it's a 3 or 4 year journey, which honestly is the most exciting transition point in your life, because you go from being the mentee to being the person that knows the most about that particular thing you're studying. You become the world expert because it's your project and your question. I've actually got goosebumps even just remembering, you know, that first time you conduct an experiment that works, because 9 times out of 10 they don't. That's why it takes 3 or 4 years. But the first time you do that experiment and it gives you the answer that addresses your hypothesis, there's nothing to match that. I mean, there really isn't. The excitement and the pride that you get. And I guess, how does that then let you go on to the next step? Well, I guess it gives you the skill set and the resilience to know that in order to succeed, you've got to have passion, absolutely. You've got to have motivation and drive, but you've also got to know how to take the knocks when it doesn't work and to pick yourself up and to redesign the experiment and to change it and not let it get you down, because you've got to have strength and confidence in yourself that you're going to get there. And I think that's what allows you then to go up the ladder a little bit more. It's having that inner strength and confidence that you can go further. Thank you.
Wow, yeah. As much as it gives you goosebumps, it gave me goosebumps as well, listening to your experience. And I know for both Vern and Dr. Padlina, both of the experiences may be a bit different since you both pursued a postgraduate studies in the UK. Maybe Vern can share a little bit. How was your experience like?
First of all, after hearing one prof and 2 doctors speak, I also want to do my PhD. Now I just need to find what I want to do. Okay, so studying in the UK, I think it was the best time of my life, to be honest. The UK is both a familiar and unfamiliar territory to a Malaysian, I think, because mainly of our history, we share some common things like, we drive on the left side of the road and language is not a barrier. But what's exciting and not that commonly found, I think, in our local education is that I think there's more room to converse and challenge, or the Brits would say banter, about your idea in or outside the classroom. Like, I remember there was this 4-week assignment that my professor gave us, and he gave us these instructions. He said, by the first week, you have learned the tools on how to solve the problems. By the second week, you think you have the right answer. By the third week, you realize you got it completely wrong. And then by the 4th week, you also realize that there's actually no right answer to the question. And that was that was really that just befuddled me in many different ways, because I come from a system where if you don't get the right keywords, you don't have the right formula, you don't get your marks in the exam. But here it's a bit more open-ended, and they're not really interested in you getting the right answer. They're just more interested to see the thought process, how inquisitive you are, how you challenge the question in different angles, and how you arrive to where you are, even if sometimes the solution is completely off the charts. And I think that was something very valuable that I took home, because it leaves room for people to discover something that maybe has not been discovered before. Just because it's been written by someone before this doesn't mean that there's no more room to grow or expand on it or find a different way to see a problem. So that was something that I really appreciated in the UK system as a postgrad. Yeah. So, and also just expanding on some of the points that they have shared earlier on. Your undergrad is to give you the tools, and postgrad is where you start to form your own hypotheses and challenge your own beliefs. And I think that's really true, because I think for many of us, especially Malaysian students, where after Form 5, after secondary school, you need to do your undergrad right away, because your parents want you to do it, right? It's like a passport to your work or something. Some students in other parts of the world, they get to do things like gap years or find out their meaning in life before they pursue uni. We don't have that luxury most of the time. So most of the time it's more like going through 4 to 5 years of engineering school, but not quite knowing what you want to do. But once you've finished and you've matured your ways, you realize there's probably a problem or two that you want to solve. And when you take your postgrad studies, you're a little bit more focused, and bam, this is what I want to do. This is exactly what I'm in classroom for. I'm not here because my parents want me to do it. I'm here because I want to do it. And I think that changes everything.
Wow. Yes, and also based on my experience in the UK, I love like what you said. You can challenge the lecturers in the class, and you won't get penalized for it. So that was very refreshing. And yes, and Dr. Fadlina, how about your experience when you did your PhD in the UK?
Allow me to share a bit also about some personal life, because I think maybe that will also be relevant to some of our audience here. In my situation, when I went there, I just delivered my first baby. She was 4 months at that time. And I went together with my husband. Both of us were doing PhD together at the same faculty, but different lab and different department. But thanks for that. Okay, so that is the first fact. Okay, so the second fact, I think the overall experience that I really treasure until now is the exposure and the training to survive, and also the endurance emotionally. Since we are talking about postgraduate studies and trying to make the audience here to imagine what kind of turbulence that can happen besides the lab adventure, you will also feel some life adventure as you approach, because in the title of women, you approach the more mature life, and you also have many other dilemma as a woman between that age range. So my experience at the UK was, at that time, I feel blessed to have a lot of support. So the support came from my supervisor, of course, my lab mates, who were very supportive of me, because as usual, I trouble them a lot, asking a lot of questions. I think I do that best. And learning from them and learn together as a group. I also got the opportunity to become lab assistant. We're also learning from their learning and working culture as well, and then joining other researchers. So those are the experience. I also my husband got one foster family, and I also got one foster family. So that was part of the beautiful stories during our learning days at University of Bristol.
Wow, that's so cool. As much as we heard so much amazing opportunities and experiences, I'm pretty sure with every flower also comes a thorn, right? So, you know, when you talk about challenges, you know, maybe Prof. Kim, how was your experience, you know, as a woman studying and working in STEM bin? Have you faced any challenges?
Thanks, Celine. Yes, I mean, of course, you know, there are challenges, and it was touched on just there by Dr. Nurfadlina, in that, you know, the journey crosses a stage in your life where perhaps you want to also consider having a family and raising children. You know, and I'm sure that the young ladies in the audience today are wondering, you know, is it really possible to do both, and how do you manage that, and when's the right time, and all of those things. Honestly, my own opinion is this. This is actually a career path that more than most will give you flexibility to do both of those things brilliantly, because, you know, as a postdoc, as a PhD student, as a lab head, the job can stop and start. You know, you can perhaps, you know, I've been to every sports day event of both of my children, and I can leave at 12 and come back at 4 and finish off something, because the job allows that. So do not think that this is a job that you need to choose against having a family. It's probably one of the ones that's most supportive in that regard. And when to do it, there is no right time. The right time is when it's right for you. You know, as Dr. Nurfadlina was saying, you know, she was going during her postgraduate studies with a small baby. I had my first child when I just was opening my lab in Scotland at Dundee University. And it's fine, because I think, unlike probably what used to be the case maybe 20 years ago, the support systems are there. There is huge visibility about how to support, you know, a work-life balance. And there is huge value and appreciation broadly about the contribution that women can make, and actually that, you know, our minds do think differently. We contribute in very different ways. We think about problems in very different ways. We conduct science actually in very different ways. And so bringing that richness and diversity is now really recognised as being hugely valuable to the STEM community. So you can absolutely have both of those things and have a fantastic work-life balance.
Wow. Yeah, thank you so much for your experience. And maybe a question to Vern. Do you feel that you have sort of like equal opportunities to men? Because essentially you are in engineering, and some may say it's predominantly male field. How do you think, and yes, how do you think we can encourage more young women and young girls into the field?
Wow, big question. I think we live in very interesting times. It's true that the engineering field is predominantly mostly male. In fact, when I was in school, in my classroom, I think only 20% were women. And to narrow down into a bit more granularity, I was the only Chinese girl in class. The good thing is the good and bad thing is all the professors know me lah. When I fail or I don't do well in my work. So, but it's also quite challenging if you go to sites where I was an engineer for a long period of my career, where, you know, you have to go offshore or you wear your coveralls and you go to plants and stuff, and you would see some very basic things that tell you that it's a men's world. For instance, even the design of the coveralls, it's not made for women. When you want to go to the loo, for example. And these are the things that you notice right away in your first, second day, and it's up to you whether you want to toughen it up. But moving along, I also see that with more women coming into the field, and being also proactively engaging with the community of an engineering cohort, is that you help people see things with a different point of view of how to be more empathetic towards a different gender, as well as at the same time, you don't try to say that, oh, because I'm women and because in the name of feminism, you need to give me more opportunities. I think that's totally unfair as well. So in terms of technicalities of how the workplace can be designed, it's slowly progressing towards there. For example, when I first started my career, there was no such thing as like a nursing room for women, for mothers. And now there's one or two that's mandatory in all offices. And recently they've also built a nursery just for staff and the children in KLCC. So I think that's actually a very good move, a very progressive move. And also, fundamentally though, I think someone in the chat mentioned that we shouldn't be segregating or looking down at different school of thoughts, stereotyping school of thoughts. And I think that's very fair. I think it's a very fair comment because everybody has their own advantages, regardless of gender. I think women should just be less afraid of the STEM industry because things are really looking up and moving more progressively to help them cope with their workplace, despite, if you have a family, you have children, like Professor Kim said, it's probably one of the most accommodating industry because people are just problem solvers. So if you have a problem, like if you have a problem with logistics, bring it to your boss, they will solve it because it's their job. It's innate in them to want to just solve and make life better for you so that you can do your job. So in that sense, I think that's really good on the front end. And so as long as you have a little bit of courage to just have that same kind of drive with your male counterparts, I think you can be equal, or if not ahead. It's a fair game, I think. I do think so.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing to hear, and from your experience as well. And also for Dr. Chai, I believe you're very passionate about gender equality in STEM subjects. That also you recently wrote an opinion piece about creating a better environment for women and girls in science. So what is your take on this? And do you think women are treated differently in STEM?
Yeah, I think when we talk about gender equality or inequality in science, so a lot of scientists would say that it's definitely a problem to a certain region in Africa, I think internationally it is definitely an issue to get women into STEM and into science particularly. In Malaysia, so if you were to talk to a lot of Malaysian scientists, so they probably would tell you that I don't think that there is a problem. So we have a lot of women scientists actually in the field. So based on the statistics, so we have close to 50%. So it's about 40% of women are, scientists are actually women, so of female gender. So, but the thing is, I always say that we should not, the number would not just tell you whether there's inequality or equality over here, because it's not about number. So it's about the quality, the environment that we are facing. So I'd just like to give an example, over here in our Young Scientist Network. So for Young Scientist Network, we cut our membership at 40 years old. So whoever 40 years old and below, so you could apply as a member based on your academic achievement. So every year, so we have a lot of application from both genders, like female and male. So it's about equal. So, but after all the screening process and the interview process, so it ends up that our statistics show that our membership, actually, we are lack of female. So it's only about 30% of female top scientist member within our YSN membership. And this is even poorer, in Academy Science Malaysia. So in a more senior academy, so there's only 20% are female. So why is the case? So we start to questions. So why is it that we have almost equal number of female and male scientists in the industry, so in the academy? So but why is it at the end the top scientists we have more men than women? Is it really the problem of women are not as excellent, or is it because of the way that we measure excellence and achievement, which has a problem? So what has that we have missed out in the entire process? So I would say that gender equality is still a problem over here, although we seem to have more women scientists in our ecosystem.
All right, thank you. Yes, having said that, apart from other challenges as well, I think Dr. Fadlina, interestingly, she also co-wrote a book to help women in their postgraduate journey called Sri Kandi PhD. And for Kim and maybe for benefit for others, Sri Kandi in Malay translated to English, it means PhD Women Warrior. Wow, so the name itself is so inspiring. And so maybe Dr. Fadlina, tell us like what drew you to do that? What was your aim? Like, that you wanted to help other women in their journey, in their postgraduate journey in STEM?
Yes, that was the main inspiration for the group to gather around and to share, so we could inspire more people, because when we use the word warrior, because all of us managed to finish the PhD without any damage. Well, that is this acronym. PhD stands for permanent head damage. So hopefully, physically and molecularly, there is no such damage, although maybe there are some emotional damage. So in the book, we highlighted about the struggle and also the challenges, the adventure really we went through, and some tips how we manage our time, some tips on how we manage ourselves, our PhD supervisor, our lab mates, the society around us, the support system, because the experience that we went through, and even until now, when I was listening to my students, my postgraduate students, and even not my postgraduate students, but people who's doing their postgraduate studies, I like to lend an ear to listen and try to give support, because in the term of equity and equality, the term fairness means that it needs to be suited to the person's need, to be personalized. So there shouldn't be a one size fits all measure. Why not try to be more human, to think and understand and work together and supporting each other, because this would ensure this, maybe this would contribute the statistics not to suffer as what we are having now. So maybe this is the problem with the measurement or the scale that we put to everybody, that makes it so difficult for women to sustain, although they are just brilliant minds and multitaskers, like Vern said just now. So in the YSN, like I'm also an affiliate member, like my boss, Dr. Ching said just now. One of the works that, among the works that we do, are trying to support and trying to enculture this STEM building among women. So hopefully this avenue would be one of the platform to encourage women to stay and excel in STEM.
Yeah, yes. Thank you so much. And I'm looking at the questions. There are some really interesting questions that are coming in, and maybe we can address them. Following up to what you explained earlier, Dr. Fadlina, there's a question by Alia Farhana that asks, do you believe that women may prevent other women from excelling or pursuing STEM careers? This is a very interesting question. Would you mind answering that? And for other speakers, please feel free to jump in with your comments and at any time. Yeah. So, Dr. Fadlina?
Prevent, it all goes down to the emotional boil of someone. But I would think that if you feel, this is more to sister talk, if you feel like other people is pulling you down, and the moment that you detect a negative aura around you, find more positive charges. Everybody have an option. Change all those challenges into opportunities. You are not tied to the other person who brings you down. Come on. STEM is not for just one person. It's for everybody. We're changing the world. So hopefully this will soothe you. Farhana, Liana, I actually couldn't see the message box, but I hope that would give you strength.
Yes, and other speakers, if you have any comments, maybe Kim, do you experience such thing? Maybe in the UK it's a bit different. I guess in this context it's about maybe women envy other women or women bullying other women. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Celine, I mean, I think this is a really interesting topic. So in the UK, that phenomenon is called pulling up the ladder behind you, right? So not allowing others to climb the ladder. And I think, well, firstly, I would say that the panelists here provide a fantastic array of role models that clearly are, you know, reaching down that ladder and holding out a hand and wanting to pull you up. And I think there are, you know, the world is full of many types of people. And my message would be find yourself a strong female role model. Find that person, because that person will, you know, be there for you throughout your career. I have two. I have my PhD supervisor who, you know, is the mother of four, showed me she can do it all, governor at a school, all of that. And I have the vice principal international at my current school, at my current university. And every time there is an issue where I encounter an obstacle, I will go and ask for advice on how to deal with it. Because exactly like Dr. Nufadina said, that obstacle is not there to prevent you getting there. You just have to figure out a way to get around it. And that you just have to believe that you will find that way, but find a role model. That would be my strongest piece of advice. Find a very strong female role model.
Thank you. That's very well said. And there's also a lot of questions like revolving around, I guess, in this case, job prospect. There's a question, there's no name here, user 1013. And I guess Natalie and as well, yes, again, anonymous. But anyways, their questions were asking more on, yes, there's a high percentage of women in STEM, but is there, do we have enough employment opportunity in Malaysia? And also, I guess, another question specifically is about what kind of like, she's an undergraduate, currently, sorry, fresh graduate, you know, a bit concerned about the changing and employment affected by the current pandemic. Maybe Dr. Chai, you'd like to take this?
Yeah, thank you. So I think like, you know, a lot of people ask that questions. Like, you know, I do think that this is one of the issue that we have always been discussing, that we keep pushing. We keep saying that we need more STEM students. We need to push people to go into STEM. But eventually, like, you know, the questions that we get back is that is there a job to take, like, you know, this group of graduates, like, you know, from STEM? And it's a chicken and egg questions, like, you know, issue where, like, you know, you have not enough job, or you do not have enough people taking up, like, you know, the career, STEM career over here. So, I mean, in the recent years, government actually, like, you know, knowing that this issue is happening, and they've been doing a lot of mapping and alignment, trying to map, like, you know, the industry, the economic activities to education and the generation of graduates over here. So I would say that we are all very lucky, like, you know, to be born in this era, like, you know, in this generation, compared to, like, you know, our grandmother, like, you know, 50 years ago or 60 years ago, where opportunity are way less compared to today. So today, like, you know, what we are seeing is that there is already a clear mapping and alignment in Malaysia, and it's just we need to wait for the time to happen, like, you know, because it won't happen overnight. So it has already been mapped. So I would say that, like, you know, perhaps, like, you know, the silver lining of COVID-19 is that it really pushed the IR 4.0 way faster. We are transitioning into IR 4.0 way faster. So can you imagine, like, you know, before last year, so we were communicating through Skype. And that's the only way. And we really hate Skype because the technology is not there yet. But because of COVID-19, nowadays we have, like, you know, so many different platforms. We have Microsoft Teams, so we have Zoom. We have a lot more technology are actually coming up. And all of these are based on science and technology. Even in Malaysia nowadays, we do not have vaccine production factory or plant. Nowadays, we are looking into, like, you know, to produce vaccine ourselves. So definitely that will create way more opportunity and career for our graduates. So to prepare for that, so we need to look at the whole chain to really churn up a lot more STEM graduates so that we could support the industry way better. So I think it's the correct timing for all of us right now.
Thank you. And just to note, we actually have 5 more minutes for question and answer. And thank you for those who posted your question in the comment box. These are brilliant questions. But I just want to give some thoughts to the questions that were posted prior to this webinar. So we've collected a lot of questions as well. I guess in terms of what are the additional skills required to strive in this field? Maybe Vern, you can take this one because I think based on your experience, your background is in engineering, but now you actually pivoted into some sort of like a new frontier. Vern?
Yeah, okay. There was a question again, Celine. What other traits or something that you must have?
Skills are, yeah, what kind of skills are necessary to kind of like strive in this this field?
I think a can-do attitude is very important. When you're in STEM, you are blessed with flexibility. I kid you not. Like, if you are, let's say, this is by no means putting down any other fields. I'm just giving a very specific example and based on experience. If you started, say, an education in finance, and you did finance all the way, it could pose as a challenge to grasp STEM subjects later on in life, because STEM subjects take years to learn sometimes, and you need some fundamentals to master them. But coming from someone from a STEM background and now doing a lot of work in finance, I find it's easier for me to pivot into finance and grasping finance ideologies and structure quicker than I think it would have been if it was the other way around. So I think we need to bear in mind that flexibility is your power to go into any field or any job scope that you may be interested in. So bearing that in mind, that as long as you know that you have the ability to break things down and reconstruct them again, or learning how they work, you will be able to thrive in most of the fields that you want to go into. So yeah, that is one key that I think separates STEM students or STEM women or men apart from those who weren't as exposed into that field of development of career.
Amazing. And just based on my experience as well, my undergraduate degree was in chemistry, but now and then my career for almost 10 years was in journalism. In fact, it kind of adds values because the STEM structure is more of promoting critical thinking and being analytical and taking on like really hard and complex topics. So I think that is an advantage for having a STEM background. And I guess there's another question maybe you could highlight by Siu Hua Guan, in terms of, is there a general consensus that men should lead and women should follow, and men tend to be better leaders, as well as she's saying that she finds it challenging when she start climbing the career ladders. Well, do the speakers or the panelists here experience the same thing? Especially, I guess, in terms of how do you cope with kind of like the feeling of inferiorities? Maybe. Dr. Kim, you like to take this?
Was that to me, Celine?
Yes, like maybe you can give some advice of to
yes.
those who feel inferior.
Yeah, absolutely. So I posted something in the chat there actually, which sort of addresses this and a couple of the questions. What are the tools that you need to succeed was one of the comments, and they said, a fantastic role model, which we've discussed already, and having support systems, support network, and a supportive spouse. But the other tool I think that is absolutely essential is to develop your own self-confidence, develop your self-belief. Part of the reason we have fewer women in leadership positions is they simply don't apply to those positions. The application number are lower because women more than men do suffer from this imposter syndrome, believing that they won't be good enough, they won't be competitive enough. There's an old adage in the UK, at least, that if you look at a job spec and they list 10 essential criteria, a woman won't apply unless they feel that they fulfill 10, whereas men will apply if they think they fulfill 6 and they'll work out the rest, you know. So and that's, you know, it's a generalization, and I don't mean to be offensive at all to men. What I'm merely saying is we've got to believe in ourselves, right? We are fantastically creative and able, strong leadership ladies. So let's just grab those opportunities when they come along, go for them. And even if you don't get the job, you will learn from applying and from experiencing an interview.
Thank you so much. And also, there's so many amazing questions, and you know, we can go on and on this discussion if with these amazing ladies. Unfortunately, we are kind of running short of time. But before we wrap up, perhaps I'll just go one round to with our speakers to kind of like what is the takeaway message and final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience today. Maybe start with Dr. Chai.
Yeah, thank you. So I think, like, you know, I mean, there are a lot more that we actually wanted to discuss and to say. So, but I think, like, you know, very important, like, you know, for women leadership, like, you know, in STEM is that, like, you know, always, like, you know, believe in yourself. You need to find a way to build your self-confidence. So build your own inner circle who continuously, like, you know, providing support. So, and also uplifting each other. So by that way, like, you know, you will find that it's way easier, like, you know, to improve your self-confidence and continuously improve yourself. So we women need to talk with substance. So there's no value in, like, you know, shouting at each other, like, you know, because you feel like, you know, that the men are over talking to you. So talk with substance so that you are more convincing. So in that way, it will actually help a lot. Yeah. So improve yourself with knowledge and skills.
Thank you. And Dr. Nur Fadlina, last words.
I'll take the opportunity to make a drill on AI and data science specifically, if possible. As you all know that now in the era of IR 4.0 and people talk about AI a lot, I hope that many ladies would consider this area because the opportunities is endless. You would have the great pool of opportunities to automate and make machines smarter, make our life better. You would be able to add intelligence to existing products, analyze existing data to make smarter decisions, and you would be able to enhance user experience. If you go into this field, make sure also you make good network and try to pick up new competencies and skills, as this area would be highly needed, as this area would be married into many other disciplines. We are all going towards interdisciplinary world. So this is a world where inclusivity also happens in science, in STEM. So everybody can play our own role.
Thank
and
you.
good luck with that. Let's
Thank
do
you
it
so
together.
Yay. And maybe Prof. Kim, your advice to perhaps a younger you and women considering a career in STEM, what achievement would you look back and think like, I'd love to go back in time and tell, you know, a younger Kim that this was possible? What would it be?
Okay, so the thing I am probably most proud of, and it took a long time, was to be promoted to professor in my institution. So Dundee University is the best university for life sciences in the UK. I would never have dreamed it's possible to be promoted to professor in this institution, and I'm extraordinarily proud of that. And I think you're right. It's about going back and telling myself to believe in myself. And that is what I'm telling all of you here. You know, follow your passion, you know, follow your passion, find your role model and go and make a change to the world. Just do that because you can.
Very well said. And Vern, last but not least, if you could give advice to your younger self. Well, you're not that old, by the way, but say a 21-year-old Vern, what would it be?
I'd say go for it. STEM, women in STEM, men in STEM. It opens up a lot of opportunities for you. And people who do STEM, I think they're really cool. They're badass. They know their stuff. That one total bias maybe, but I don't care. Just go for it. And I think for those who think that, you know, confidence is an issue, speaking up is an issue, guess what? I think STEM actually is one of those fields where you let your work take its own stride, speak for its own. As long as you're passionate in what you do, you let your results speak for itself. And more often than not, it doesn't only benefit you, it benefits other people as well. So yes, go for it. Don't worry, don't hesitate. Nothing in life goes according to plan, but what I can tell you is that going to STEM opens up a lot of opportunities, a lot of exciting things ahead. It's like an adventure just waiting for you to explore. So don't hold back, and don't let naysayers hold you back. Just go for it.
Go for it. I like it. That's how we're going to end our webinar. But please don't go first. As promised, let us hear from Prabha of the British Council on this exciting new scholarship for women in STEM.
Hi, everyone, and thank you all so much indeed for joining us on a Saturday afternoon and for being a part of this really interesting conversation on women in STEM. And huge shout out to our speakers and our moderator for sharing such personal and, lesser known and interesting bits of your experiences and perspective. And that speaks volumes about your passion in this area, which I'm sure many amongst our participants here share as well. So as we speak about challenges, let's also look at the opportunities. You can see the slide on the screen at the moment, and the British Council, throughout its work in East Asia and around the world, has established many programs to support women and girls in STEM, designed with a life cycle approach in mind, from inspiring young girls to stay in STEM to supporting women working in STEM fields to reach positions of leadership and network with their peers in the region and in the UK. So expanding on that work, the British Council is very pleased to have now launched a scholarship program in partnership with UK universities aimed at benefiting women in STEM from Southeast Asia. There are other regions involved, but we're really excited that women from Southeast Asia can be a part of this. Malaysia is one of the countries which is eligible for these scholarships. We're looking for women with a background in STEM who can demonstrate their need for financial support and who wish to inspire future generations of women to pursue careers in STEM, just like our fantastic speakers and moderator today. And incidentally, I have a background in STEM as well. I graduated with a degree in genetics from University Malaya way back in the 90s. I'm an educator now, but yeah, it does serve you well, believe me. And back to the scholarships, you will notice that there's a wide range of programs offered, and all of these programs that are being offered are really relevant. On the slide, you can see some of those programs. If you go into specific university websites, you'll actually see details of the programs. And all of these fields are really important and practical areas, especially in this, many of you spoke about the changed world that we are all in and we're moving forward into. These are super important areas. I think there's even an MA in mental health offered by one of the universities under this scholarship. So please do check it out. What is unique about this scholarship is that it is sensitive to specific needs of women and offers some special support, such as an allowance to cover accompanying children, something which sometimes hinders mothers from pursuing overseas education. So that's the kind of spirit of the scholarship, and that's what we want to offer to women and girls who are really passionate about this area. Just a quick note that deadlines are coming up very quickly for the scholarships for women in STEM. So please do check out the details and the university specific information that's on the link. You can scan that link there. I think there is another slide which has a link as well. You can go into the link I've put on the chat. That is the British Council link for the Women in STEM scholarships. And you can go into specific university websites from that link as well. Also, a gentle reminder, you do need to apply for the program that you wish to study at the university first before applying for the scholarship. So and there are deadlines. I think the one of the universities has got a deadline of the 7th of March, if I'm not mistaken, to apply for the program. I'm not sure if they're going to extend that, but please go in and apply for the program first and then apply for the Women in STEM scholarship. Most of the deadlines for scholarship application are on the last week of March. So please do check it out as soon as possible and do reach out to me if you need any further information. Thank you so much. Back to you, Sulin.
Thank you so much, Prabha. I'm afraid that's all the time we have today. And thank you so much for watching and sending in all your amazing questions. And special thanks to our fantastic panel of speakers. Thank you, Kim, for waking up so early on a Saturday morning. And to the organizers, British Council, Science Media Centre Malaysia, and the Petri Dish. And as mentioned by Prabha, to share with you, you can learn more about the scholarship by scanning the QR code on the screen. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions at the contact provided. And please stay tuned to all our social medias. Where we'll be announcing the next exciting event, FameLab, which will be happening real soon. And we'll leave the slide there for you to have a look about more on FameLab. And till then, take care and please stay safe.